parts of the action, which has gone over, load and unload the firearm. So, Mimi, if you could read off these for me.
Receiver, trigger, firing pin, seal, hammer, hammer spur, breech bolt or breech block, extractor.
Right. So, firstly, the receiver is the component of the rifle that houses the other parts and to which the barrel and stock, and often the scope and rear sights, depending on which your firearm has, are also attached to. If I may grab one of these training aids, I will. This one here is. Probably grab this. So first, bolts back. Maybe you could once again just verify this is unloaded. Sophia. So what I just did there is very crucial to something like this, making sure that the firearm is always safe, because in the end, we don't want any incidents, we don't want anything to go wrong, and I'd rather everyone go out of here with the same amount of holes in their body that they came in with. So, the trigger is this small little lever-ish function right here that you always want to keep your finger off of until you are ready to fire. What it does is it strikes the hammer, which causes your round to go down range, wherever you're aiming. So the firing pin is the component that has a needle-shaped projection that impacts the primer or case rim to fire the cartridge. Now, although I cannot really show that to you, just know that it is inside here where the round is going to go whenever you're loading it up. The sear, which on some guns is the part that releases the hammer or firing pin when the trigger is pulled, which once again will be somewhere in there. The hammer, which is the...
I'm sorry, do you mean that it's all integrated inside there?
Yes.
That's why you're not even able to show it to us?
Yes. It's just, I could
Can we
bring
remove
it up
the
to your
bolt?
face, but...
Okay. Do you want to take the bolt out?
You might want to have to show them how to do that.
Yeah. Point that up for me. Now, class, let's just remember, no matter what's going on, always point any firearm, any practice firearm, airsoft gun in a safe direction while we're in this classroom. That is either up or over that way. So I don't want anyone pointing at anyone else while we're here. Let's see.
Oh, that was easy enough.
Wow, really easy. Alright, so this is specifically the bolt of a bolt action. No, I may place this down. Just want to be very delicate with this because even though it's metal, I don't want to find the limit of it. So here, if I may. Okay. Well, next we have the hammer spur, which is the projection on the hammer that may be gripped by the thumb. Now, in some rifles, there is this spur, as it's described, where you kind of click it down, but I don't think I see that here. That or it just got taken off with a little bolt. Next, the breech bolt and breech block, which is the component that seals the breech end of the barrel and is mechanically locked in the closed position. So, Sophia, if you may switch the slide, because I've got a rifle in my hands.
Just hit the right arrow there.
One more time, please. Thank you. All right,
And you probably want to move back just a little bit, Sophia.
Yeah. Mr. Martin, would you like to read off the...
Yes. Rifle action parts. The ejector, ejection port, trigger guard, rear sight or scope, safety, magazine, magazine release.
Alright. So the ejector is the section that throws out empty cartridges, empty rounds when you're fired or shot. When a round itself contains a variety of components, it's not just a bullet. A bullet is a part of it, but once the primer is struck, that's not what I was trying to say, but I appreciate your input. Once the case itself is empty, it needs to be relieved from the rifle, and that's where the ejection port comes in, and the ejector fires the ejected round outside. The trigger guard is this guard right here that, as stated, guards the trigger. Make sure you know where that is and you know where the trigger is, so you keep your finger off of it at all times until you're ready to fire. Next we have the rear sight or scope. Now typically if you have a sight, you want to align that with the front sight, but this specific rifle has a scope. Specifically a large one that is attached to the receiver. Now, if I were to, could you come behind me?
It's a large one and it's in my damn way right now.
I'm using it, I would look down at like this. You want to just line that, but that's for a later time. Next is the safety. Now, if we could, I'm better with.
I think we predetermined, Don Vito, that did not have it. And that with the bolt being out of battery, that was safe.
Typically though, the safety is a mechanical device that is usually a small lever, seen on semi-autos. If I may place this back down, should I put the bolt back in?
We can leave it out for now. I'd also like to add on a bit to what he was saying. Different rifles will have different kinds of safeties, and some very old ones may not have a safety at all. Especially for things like the lever actions, which first came out in about 1866. It wasn't really something that they thought of back then. They are built off of revolvers, especially the older rifles, where they have what's called a half cock. That's where you pull the hammer back. If we had this blown up, it'd be this little bit back here. And the hammer will just move off of the back of the case a little bit. It'll move the firing pin back. You won't be able to pull the trigger, but visually it will be very difficult to tell that the safety is engaged. Others, there may be a small white or red dot that you can see, good, bad. On the side of rifles like the AR, there will be a switch with a nice little picture telling you whether or not you're safe.
Now, before I actually do anything with this, once again, verify that this unloaded. Sir, if you may.
Oh yeah.
Check that. Verify. Cool. Things inside.
Yeah, you're good.
Get that together. Just make sure that two people have verified, other than myself, that this gun is empty.
Dirty gun.
It is dirty, yes. So, as mentioned, rifles that do in fact have a safety, usually it's a small lever function that has labeled fire or safe. The arrow is pointing towards safe, so it's on safe. However, that does not mean it is entirely safe. This is just a mechanical device. That's what a gun really is, a mechanical device. And machines can end up failing. So no matter what, whether it's loaded, unloaded, unsafe or not, you want to treat it like it's loaded, chambered, and ready to fire. That means not muzzling anyone. That means holding in a safe direction, which we have designated as somewhat of this firing line here. It's not perfect since this is a classroom, but regardless, you want to make sure it's safe at all times. Now, the magazine can be a variety of things, whether like a box, tube, or rotary design, maybe detachable or not. But on this specific model, it would be detachable. Now, there is no magazine in there right now, but typically, mags where the rounds go in and are then fired out. The mag release is usually a small button on the side. If you would like to take a closer look, you would press that down, and on detachable mags, you would then be able to take it out. So, next slide would be
Alright, so can